Black like me. Black like me. Black like me.
You're listening to Black Like Me with Dr. Alex G., a podcast that invites you to experience the world through the perspective of one black man, one conversation, one story, or even one rant at a time. Here's Dr. G.
Hey, good people. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Black Like Me with Dr. Alex G. Now, didn't I tell you all that season 8 was going to be fire? Did I not tell you? And it is. I can't believe how much fun I'm having recording this particular season, because I get to sit down with some of my favorite people who ask me real thought-provoking questions about my leadership, my experiences, my regrets, and how I really have approached leadership. And so I'm excited about that. So today's guest is no exception. Peter Ahn is my guest host today. Peter's one of my favorite people in the world, one of my best friends on the planet. We met years ago. He was a fellow pastor, but we met years ago at a small gathering, pastors from all across the world, actually. I mean, there are people there from South America, the U.S. I think I was one of 2 black people there. The rest of the folks were Asian American. We jumped out of a plane together. Right. I let folks talk me out of jumping out of a plane. It changed my life, changed my world. And Peter and I connected because we jumped first and second out of that plane. I didn't try to jump first because I was too afraid. Come on, Peter. You know
I kind of pushed you to go first. Yeah. I was a little nervous.
So I got out. I got in the plane last because a brother didn't want to jump out of plane. But a brother didn't want to not jump because I was representing brothers.
That's right. But
I was still having brother feelings, and that's fear of falling and dying. So anyway, I was the last one in the plane, and I sat down and I thought, well, shit, that means I'm the first one out. And I was.
Yes,
and
you
so was I the first? I was the first one up.
You were one, I was 2.
That's right, man. I kind of blanked some of that out. So anyway, we became friends after that, connected. I was in New York because he lives in New Jersey. I was in New York for a speaking engagement. Not really knowing my Northeast geography, reached out to him, not understanding how far Leonia, New Jersey was from Chelsea in Manhattan. But he drove over, picked me up, took me to a movie, out to eat, and then took me to the airport, and we just have been best friends since then. But he's my guest today. I just want to say that he is, in the church world, it's called a church planter. But in broader sense, he's really an innovator. He had an idea to create this Asian-led, multi-ethnic community of faith in Jersey, in Bergen County. And he wanted to be able to reach doctors and folks who are struggling economically. And he's just built this great community. And this place is really a home away from home for me. He's completing his doctorate degree. He just finished his dissertation. He'll be defending it soon. But he's traveled the world. It's because of him that I actually set foot on the motherland. He acquired a grant and invited me to go with him to South Africa, where I started finding my soul in ways I never intended. So anyway, I'm talking way too much, but I just want you to know that this is a brother from another mother, a true soul brother. We spent time on 4 or 5 continents together, trying to do good, trying to help people grow stronger, grow in their faith, and also thinking about how we influence our communities and neighborhoods as well. And so I want you just to help me to welcome my very special guest, Peter Ahn. Peter, how are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. This is awesome to do this face-to-face in a studio. So thank you for having me. And I'm really excited to be here. And I'm going to grill you today. I'm ready to grill you.
Dang, man, it feels like this is your life kind of stuff. So listen, I'm passing the mic over. The only thing I'm going to ask you as we're starting is to maybe kick things off.
Yeah.
And maybe just telling a story that maybe sets up our friendship and our connection that might help people to understand how we interact. And then I'm at your disposal, young man.
All right. Well, for me, Alex shared that story, but when we first met at this conference, but I was actually very intimidated by you. and I didn't know if I should go
Because I was black?
not because you were black, but just
Okay,
because
that's what
you
I'd
had sort of a pastoral resume. I just graduated seminary. I was kind of getting to that place of wanting to plant a church. Here you are, itinerant speaker, speaking at Urbana, different things like that, doing great things here in Madison. And so I was just naturally intimidated by you. But once we jumped out of that plane, everything changed. Like something happens when you know you might die and you risk your life doing something together. We just became brothers. And
you bond with people when you pee on yourselves.
Oh my goodness.
In the air. That's something about that just ties you together.
That was crazy. You were first. I remember I was like, oh, I can't go first. And you jumped out of that plane first. And I just followed behind you. And then ever since then, I was like, all right, that's it. We got to be brothers.
Now, let's just be honest. I was the only brother in the plane. Y'all pushed me out. Talking about I jumped.
You actually held the top of the plane before the guy went out, and he finally pushed you out.
Because I was scared. People were like, oh, you look scared. Like, you think? We were like 2 miles up in the air. And so, no. So, man, I really... appreciate that.
Yeah, and so I think we've traveled the world together. You've kind of seen my life. So we've seen it in a public place. I've seen yours on a public scale, and then also in a private place as well. Sure. We've been able to kind of speak into each other's life. And so what I want the audience to know is that you've been a person that has made a tremendous impact in my life. And one of the most popular stories that I like to share about you is that one day you kind of said to me, you looked at me, you said, "You know what? We need you to get a whole new wardrobe." And I'm like, what? You're like,
you're making me sound shallow.
Everything you wear is black and gray. You need some lively color. And you're like, we're gonna go to Nordstrom's rack. We're gonna go to the mall, and I'm gonna do some shopping for you. All right, I'm gonna pick out some clothes. And I was just like, man, I don't know. I'm not sure if I want you to do that, but okay, we'll go. Let's check it out. And so we go. And this is one of the cool things about you is that we can just kind of do life, and then somehow you really speak courageously, but also really help me to see things about myself that I never saw before. And one of the things you did was we went there and you got this shirt, this button shirt, and it was literally fluorescent orange. And you're like, "Peter, this will look so good on you." And I was like, "Alex, I can't wear that because if I wear that, it's going to draw way too much attention on me. No, I cannot wear a shirt like that." And you just kind of put it back on the rack, and then you look around, you looked at the tie section, and then you grab the tie, and you're like, "Peter, this will look really good on you." And again, it had these flamboyant neon colors, and I just said, no. I was like, "Alex, if I wear that to church, it's gonna draw way too much attention to me." And you had this look on your face, and it was just like a look of disgust, right? And then you just go over, and I think you were like, "Well, he's gonna like these. Let's get him some cufflinks." And then you found a pair of cufflinks. You're like, "Peter, these cufflinks would be really nice. You can at least get a pair of cufflinks." And I said, "You know what, Alex? I don't know if I wear that. If I wear it to a church function or something like that, I was like, it's gonna draw too much attention." And then you just dropped those cufflinks on the shelf, and you just said, "Listen, let me just ask you something. I know when you get angry, you call me boy." You said, "Boy, do you think God made you 6 feet 4 inches tall so you can just blend in?"
And Korean. 6'4" and Korean.
And so that you can just blend in with everyone so that you can't be seen? And then you said this to me, and this is what I'll never forget. You said, "You better stand up tall, put your head up high, and be proud that God made you 6 feet 4 inches tall. Peter, God created you this way so that you can stand out. So stop trying to hide and blend in." I mean, it was one of those, oh my gosh moments. So I guess what I wanted to ask you was, what was going through your mind when you were hearing me say, I'm gonna stick out too much. It's gonna draw way too much attention to me. What was going through your psyche as I was turning you down on your wardrobe selection for me? What were you thinking? Because then you spoke so boldly into my life. But I think those are some of those moments that you and I have had that's really impacted me profoundly. But I would love to know what was going through your mind when I was saying that.
Man, first of all, I must have been having a rough day. So Peter, I want to apologize right now in front of all my listeners and yours. No, I think what was going on, Peter, is. So Peter's right. When I met him, he was an intern. But what stands out is, people listen and act like they don't see ethnicity. When you saw me, you knew I was black, and there was only one other black person in in that room. I saw you. You were not the only Korean American person, but you were the tallest Korean American person in that room. So we saw each other's ethnic features and physical uniquenesses. And so for people to pretend like they don't see that, and so I live in Madison. And so the diversity of my friendships have been somewhat limited because, so I've been looking to expand and know people from other cultures. And so when I was invited into this circle, it was my first time being in a circle that was predominantly Asian American, that I was outnumbered. I'm used to being outnumbered by white people, but not Asian Americans, and specifically Korean Americans. So the first thing I noticed about you and liked about you was your cultural uniqueness and your height and who you were, that you were unique. So for you to downplay what is obvious about you, what people notice first. Now, again, I got to appreciate your mind and your heart and your desire to travel the world and your love for Africa and African people. I got to know those things, and so what I felt when I was having that conversation is who taught you to be ashamed of who you are? Who taught you to not appreciate that? Who taught you to not lean in to that? Yeah. Because there are important things, and authenticity is so key. And so it hurt my heart that you had experienced those things, but then it pissed me off that you were listening to them. So I want people to know I'm not a total clothes horse. However, I was raised by a single mom, so I know how to accessorize. All right, brother knows how to accessorize. I know how to put my shoes and my socks and my belt together.
Sure. Yep.
So when I saw you wearing like sleeves halfway up, your wrists, I was like, come on down, brother. Come on now. I wear 35, 36. That's kind of long. You got to at least be, 42, 43. And so you can't wear my shirts. And so you were wearing stuff off the rack. So, you're 6'4". I'm 5'8". So you can't be having like shirts looking like tube tops coming over your navel and then long sleeve shirts coming down to your wrists. I was like, no, we're not finna do. Not if I'm gonna hang out with you. Now you can do that. We're not.
That's right.
We're not. And so, Peter, I don't know if you
style.
come on. I don't know if you remember this part of us sitting up, Peter. Listen, if you're ashamed of being tall and Korean, you need to let me know because that's what I like about you. Yes. So if you don't want to be that guy, I got to find another buddy.
Right. That's right.
I know that sounds totally selfish, but I was trying to get in his head, people. I was trying to get in his head.
That's right.
So my whole thing was, man, is that I wanted you to begin to look at yourself through your own perspective, and to be proud because Asian American people, Korean American people, not many of whom are tall, look at you with admiration. And so the folks who might look at you and think like, whoa, what's going on, are probably not Korean people. Yeah. It may be a lot of other people. It might be some black people. So I'm not acting like it's just white people. Yeah. But in your community, I feel like there probably was a sense of pride, like, wow, look at him about how big he is, how tall he is, and how he looks and how he dresses. So anyway, that's a long answer. But my whole point was, I just didn't want you to carry any shame around who you were because there was nothing to be ashamed of.
Yeah, and it was really like one of those powerful moments in my life. But I got to thank you for that, because I think in a lot of relationships that people have, sometimes they don't have perhaps the courage to share something like that because they're worried about maybe offending and and things like that. But for you, like, one of the things I really appreciate about our relationship is that whenever you give me feedback like that, I take that as like a term of endearment. Like, as like, this is a big brother that's really trying to be honest and truthful and trying to speak and have a heart-to-heart with me. And that's why it was like one of those powerful moments. And I was like, yeah, I got to start dressing in different colors and I got to start sticking out because God created me to stick out. So I got to stick out a little bit. So I really appreciated that about you. But that's courage, though, because I think there's a lot of people that wouldn't. They just would say, you know what, okay, whatever. And they just wouldn't like want to sort of get somebody upset or maybe speak truth. And I find that for you, you're not like that. You like to really share truth and love and really be honest with people. And I think that's really admirable. And that's one of the things I love about you is that you always keep it real and sometimes even funny as you keep it real.
Can I throw one thing out?
Yeah.
When I do go to Jersey, Peter's good at taking me over to Harlem.
Yeah, that's right.
So I have his favorite soul food restaurant that's run and staffed by black people, but it's owned by Korean people. So we're both at home there. So the Koreans are managing it, but the black folks are putting the food and stuff out. But some of the Koreans are cooking the soul food. They got they're cooking some of the greens and stuff too. But we hang out in Harlem, go shopping and stuff because I love Harlem because of the preponderance of blackness. It's just really, really. It's cool that we're in that kind of space. But I took you to one of the places where I like to shop on 125th Street.
I know. Yeah.
Guy looked at you and said, "Hey, I got a jacket that'll fit you." Now I don't think they call it this now, but back in the day it was called like shark skin, the way it looked. And he went and got it, and you're like, "No, I can't buy off the rack."
That's right. I remember that.
He said, "Just trust me." He put it on you. It fit perfectly. Here, go try these pants on. then when you did it, it's like like black and Latino men are shopping at black and Puerto Rican men. But then when you came out, people were like, "Dang, that suit looks like." Then people start, the brothers start looking at you, nodding like, "Oh, that's nice. That's nice." I think you end up wearing it to church. Like that's still my profile pic when you call.
Yeah,
that's the picture that comes up. But you're in this black men's store. They threw a suit on you, and you ended up buying it. And you end up buying it. But you got this affirmation from these black. These guys who make a living,
that's right.
Sizing up people, putting clothes on them. But there was all this affirmation like, man, you like this mannequin, like take advantage of it. You're tall, you're slim, you can wear stuff. So I remember that the discussion that we started in Nordstrom Rack
that's right.
in Jersey played out
that's
in
right.
Harlem
that's
where you got a real
right.
black man suit
that's right.
from a black salesman and it looked good on you.
It was a nice, shiny, gray suit, man. A nice, shiny suit, man. It looked good.
You wore it.
And I got the bow ties and everything.
Yes, you did. Come on now. Come on here.
Oh, man. All right. Well, I got a couple questions for you that
yes,
I'd love to ask you because I think some of these are just really important. You and I have engaged in some of these conversations before. But one of the things I realized over the years, at least as being a leader, is that leaders are made or literally broken through crisis. And I know that you've been a leader, a pastor, a leader of the city for decades. And I know that you've gone through your crisis moments. And I just kind of want to, maybe if you can share with the audience, what are some things, particularly, let's just take, for example, COVID. This pandemic happened, and it literally shut everything down. It was a crisis. What were some things that you feel like some takeaways that you might have been able to kind of, as you reflect upon it now, that can literally translate into like key steps that perhaps another leader who's listening today, as they might be in a crisis right now, or maybe one day they would remember what you've said and say, you know what, these are some salient points or things that I did during this crisis that was where I was able to lead my organization, a group of people out of it and do it well. And so I'd love to kind of pick your brain about that and sort of get your thoughts about how you were able to lead through a crisis situation and how you were able to do it well.
Man, that's a great question, and this is why we're doing Pastor Mike, because it gives me a chance to reflect. Because I don't get these answers or the questions you're going to ask way in advance. I have to think about them.
That's right.
Off the cuff. For me, when crisis happens, like with the pandemic, it's a chance to live in the ambiguous. And so there's three things that you get to do in a time of crisis. You get to rethink new roads, new roles, and new rules. Roads are different ways you travel. Roles are how you will morph into something else. And rules talk about how you go about doing it. That maybe what has been a rule in the past doesn't necessarily apply moving forward. So roads, roles, and rules. So when the pandemic happened, I freaked out. I actually thought that I was going to lose my nonprofit, and I wasn't sure, Nehemiah, and I wasn't sure if the church was going to go under. And I just assumed that the plans for the Center for Black Excellence in Culture were smashed because, they were shutting down March Madness. They were playing in a bubble down at the NBA playoffs. Wall Street was shut down. I was watching, so I couldn't imagine our world coming back without losing our donors to the nonprofit world. I was actually on a call with a mutual friend of ours, Dave, and he pulled together like 60 influencers. Some were professional athletes. People worked for Google. People worked in the media. People used to work for, what's that store called? Lululemon?
Lululemon.
Lululemon. I call it Melon. Like someone who used to be the COO of that company. Somebody who used to work for Tesla.
Wow.
And we talked, and basically what they were saying was, we've got to pivot. We got to pivot. The world's going to be crazy for 18 months, but you have to think now where you want to be. So what they were saying was rethink your role, rethink the rules, and rethink the road that you want to take.
Yeah.
That was so mind-boggling for me. So for me as a leader, I can't just look at what we've always done. So I went into this call because I just wanted to commiserate with others who are running nonprofits around the world. But what I heard is that this is not the end of the world. Some good is going to come out of this. Let's ride out the storm, but begin thinking who you want to be, how you want to get there, and what your role would look like. I came back to my staff and said, we're going to pivot. My Nehemiah staff said, we're going to pivot. We're going to stop begging for emergency food. We're not going to ask our funders for that because at this time we didn't know if the pandemic was going to last for 3 months or 6 months. I said, but it's going to run out. We're going to stop and go back to normal. And if we start chasing money for helping people with food and toiletries, when it lifts, we're going to be known for that and not for the work that we already are known for. That's reentry, housing, helping people work through the throngs of racial insensitivity and systemic racism. Let's stick to our core business. Let's tell people what we've been doing, because our organization, Nehemiah, really focused on issues plaguing the Black community pre-pandemic, during the pandemic, in the midst of the pandemic, and we will still be doing this post-pandemic.
Yeah.
So if we shift our mission, like all we're doing is trying to meet emergency needs, we're going to be known for that. And so we made that shift. We started telling people what we did. Folks started signing up for our history class. People started volunteering. We got brand new donors that we'd never had before. And so I just think part of what I had to do was, and this is where my faith comes in too, and faith is not just having the confidence to do something, but also having the confidence to wait, to really be directed inwardly. I don't just try to read a manual or a magazine and say, this is the new direction. So although my head was saying we're doomed, my heart was saying, run with that pivot. You don't know the full strength of it. Just take it a day at a time. Eli, who's here in the studios as my producer, he's the director of our communications team. I said, Eli, I want a letter out every week or every other week. This is what we're doing. Here's how we're training people. This is the work of Nehemiah. So we totally re-educated our supporters. We got new people following us, and it gave brand new life. And we had the most successful financial season of Nehemiah's 30-year history during the 3 years of COVID, because we looked at new roads, new roles, and new rules. And the team believed me because I said it with passion and confidence. They shifted and said, all right, we got you. Let's do this. And we saw the benefits of it. So I think crisis actually really gets me going because I like newness. It either happens by leaving what you have currently built to innovate something brand new, or to redefine yourself or your organization within its current confines. And so because I knew leaving Nehemiah wasn't an option, I didn't want to do that. It gave me a chance to redefine Nehemiah and its purpose inside its own auspices, its own umbrella. And that redefinition changed us in such a relevant way that we became known in the community as the place you go to understand what's happening to Black people in America. And so I said to Eli, I need handbooks on how to watch movies and discuss them. We need to make recommendations of books. We just start naming all of these resources. So if you go to nehemiah.org, there'll be a link, in the notes section here. We have all of these resources, and we became like the place you go to hear about the Black community, from the Black community, and what white people need to understand, or non-Black people need to understand about the Black issue. Because what was happening in the streets to George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Tamir Rice, Michael Brown, Ahmaud Arbery was not about single moms, which is what some people would have you think. If we just didn't have these issues, we wouldn't have these issues. I know a lot of people with single moms, and none of them caused them to be shot down in the streets. It had to be misguided people with rifles chasing down Black people, breaking into Black people's homes, shooting them in their beds, kneeling on the necks of Black people, shooting Black people with their hands up. None of that had to do with single mothers, because single mothers don't prepare their children for death.
Yes, right.
Sorry, I got on a soapbox with that.
No, this is great.
Those are the things that really helped me to do that. So I don't like the crisis that goes on, but it gets those innovative juices of mine going to rethink ourselves and our reality.
It's just so powerful because, like you just said, so many times crisis is an opportunity for innovation. And that's why I've seen you over the years that you really thrive in crisis. And, these guys at Harvard, their name is Linsky and Heifetz. They wrote a book called Leadership on the Line. And what you just said at the beginning when I asked you that question, you said, you got to embrace ambiguity. And that is so key, because what they write in their book is simply this. They say that the reason why leaders fail in crisis is because they don't embrace the ambiguity and they always try to predict the outcome. And that's when they fall, because in a crisis, you can never predict the outcome. And they call that a technical approach to leadership. Right. And they say that you have to actually embrace an adaptive leadership form. An adaptive leadership form is simply leading in ambiguity and not worrying about the outcome. And you just lead in that ambiguity to the best of your ability. And you just kind of shared it so beautifully. And I just think that's remarkable. I actually didn't know that in those 3 years was the most fruitful 3 years in terms of giving and donations and stuff like that. That's amazing. What a story.
Our staff grew. As people were downsizing, our staff was growing. And when we reported to our board, like when Harry was giving me updates, my executive vice president, I didn't believe him. I was like, "Can you show me a bank statement?" Because I just thought, okay, he's new in this role. Maybe he forgot a comma.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
He saw an extra zero.
Right.
Like he just
Harry, is that black or is that red lettering? Is there a minus sign here? Because it's important if that sign is a minus or not. I know. I'm saying this. I know Harry's going to listen to this and laugh. But because people love innovation. Now, during mundane times, you don't want an innovator leader at your helm.
That's right.
Because sometimes, as I have found, because we always want to change things. But in crisis, you can't have the technicians who understand technical solutions because they freak out. It's those of us who understand, okay, the world's moving, the stars are moving, Wall Street is moving, donors are moving, organizations are moving, the pandemic is moving, media is moving, while all those things are swirling. An innovator can stand in the midst of that, hold all of it in tension and say, here's the direction we need to go.
That's right.
And that's
right.
That's what happened.
That's right. We don't know what's going to happen, but we're just going to go this direction and see what happens. But this is the way to go. It's kind of like, let's throw away the employee manuals. Let's throw away all like the different policies, and let's kind of start from ground zero again.
And the kids that my staff follow me. Because,
that's beautiful.
Because a visionary can have thoughts all day.
That's
you can
right.
dream all day.
That's right.
But unless people believe that you have a track record of doing that. And something happens very similar at church. Jakisha, who's part of my podcast team, she's one of our creatives. I said I need an app right away, because black churches were still holding services because many of them did not have a means for congregating or collecting resources, which you need for church. I understand. I run a church. You need resources to do that. You showed us your app. I sent it to Jakisha. She put an app together, and actually, I think we're doing it through Splash something.
Okay.
She was training them on new things that we wanted it to do. So we duplicated your church's application. We found a way to hire a person who didn't belong to our church, didn't believe like our church, to put the videos together. But the innovation to do that caused the church to grow, for us to have more adherence, and we actually grew in population during the 3 years of COVID than we did the 5 years leading up to COVID.
So, like, as I'm hearing you talk, I have a couple of other questions that that I just would love to ask you. So you just said, my staff follow me. There are leaders out there where their staff don't follow them. A lot of times they don't trust them and different things like that. Why do you think your staff is willing to follow you? Like, what is it? Because maybe you can help a leader out who might be struggling with that whenever they have an innovative idea, whenever there's a crisis and they're trying to, but sometimes their people, their staff are not willing to follow them. What have you done over the years that you have been able to lead in such a way where your staff trusts you and they say, we will follow your lead? I mean, I don't know. I don't know if you've ever thought about that, but what do you think? How could you help somebody who might be struggling with that?
Great question, Peter. I mean, I probably should clarify. Your employees, your team members, your colleagues don't follow you in crisis, into a crisis. They follow you when there's not a crisis. And
that's good.
And so that when a crisis comes and you say, this is how we run into the burning building, we run out, they trust you because of what you do pre-crisis.
There you go.
So you can't develop that level of adherence and partnership. But if you've helped people dream, and you've created space where their dreams can come to pass, where the vision makes room for their vision to do things that they want to do, and you create things together, in those moments, they follow. But it wasn't like they've never followed before. They trusted, not just that I could have vision and follow through it. They trusted that I cared for the community, that I cared for them, and that I wanted us all to succeed. They knew that I wasn't forcing them to come into the office. That I wanted them to work, safely, and they knew that I trusted that they will still give us enough work. I think Eli probably can help me. I don't think we're expecting people to do 40 hours back in those days, but I think we're asking for, good 15 to 20 or something. So they knew we really understood. They were home with their children. They were afraid. We weren't sure if we were going to make it through this. But it's what you do pre-crisis that helps you to do what you need to do mid-crisis.
Absolutely.
So I would say to the leaders, how are you treating people? How are you communicating with people? How are you empowering people pre-crisis.
Yeah.
Because if you do it right, folks will stand with you
That's right.
in the midst of crisis.
Yeah.
And I was never prouder to be Nehemiah's CEO and founder than I was with my staff, who showed up every day virtually to serve this city.
You know, there's something real special that happens when you see talent and abilities in people. And I listened to the first one, the new season with Harry.
Right.
And you saw potential in him that he didn't even see in himself. And you empowered him to do something. And he's like your number 2 now. And it's just amazing that I think that's a real key thing to leadership that I think leaders need to hear today. They need to realize that when you want to empower people, when you see giftings and you elevate them and you give them the platform to excel, and then they're excelling, they're willing to follow you wherever you want to go, wherever you want to go, particularly in a crisis. And I've always seen that you've never felt threatened by any of these people. You always want to empower. You want them to ascend and take the mantle and have the credibility and receive, and even take some of the accolades and stuff like that brings joy to you. And that's a very special kind of leader. And I know people have to do a lot of deep work to get there. But I think that's one of the things why people are willing to follow you, especially during a crisis, because you treat them well, you see them, and you empower them, which is really cool.
I appreciate that, Peter.
So one of the other questions that I have is this, and I think sometimes if people see you in this community, they just see like you have it kind of all together. But I believe every leader struggles with doubt. And when you started this Center for Black Excellence, you had a lot of money you had to raise.
Yes.
I mean, I'm sure you had doubt. So could you share with us, how do you deal with your doubt? Because all leaders go through a lot of doubt. And sometimes the doubt gets so big where it kind of paralyzes them. But how have you been over the years been able to overcome your doubts so that you can continue to do the things that you feel like you want to do? And like what you're doing here with the Center for Black Excellence, the kind of money you have been raising, that you have raised, I have never met another human person that I have a relationship that is raised. And I know a lot of pretty well-known people who have a deep amount of resources and connections, but I've never met anyone who's been able to raise the kind of money that you have been able to raise. But I'm sure you had some doubts even before you started. How did you wrestle with that, and how did you overcome it?
Dang, you're asking all these great questions, Peter.
Yeah.
Again, I feel like I won't say an advantage, but I will certainly say a resource that I have as a leader is that I believe in divine intervention. I believe in a purpose and a sense of calling, and I believe in that direction outside ourselves. And so I would say for 40 years, I believe that I had this deep impulse in my heart that I was supposed to do something key on a hill in Madison. Now, the center is going to be on the largest hill in South Madison. It's where our church has been for the last 35 years. But I've known that since I was 16.
Wow.
So when the opportunity presents itself, I take a dream that I put on the shelf and think, okay, I gave up on this. This is a hill. There's a chance to do something that's this national model. We have some of the most blaring disparities between blacks and whites in the nation. And we're going to create space for innovation and black-led solutions and artistic expression and strengthening our families and creating places for black leadership development and reconnecting with our heritage in West Africa.
Yeah.
But wait, I've been waiting for this my whole life. So faith has helped me to not give up on that dream or that message that's been in my heart. Had no idea what it looked like. And to be honest, the people working most closely with me in the center probably don't know that part about my life. But that's what helps me to get up, because we dusted off the vision for the center during the pandemic. One of my advisors, he's also part of this season, Rick Phelps, our former county executive, said, I think it's time that we dust off that plan.
Wow.
And I was thinking, what the hell is Rick talking about? Is he drinking? This is the pandemic. Wall Street is closed. Like, we're watching people here. They're making plans to put people on beds in Central Park.
right.
I don't know if it's Central Park, but we're watching. These numbers are going up every day about people that are dying. And we're going to start raising money for a center. This is serious. White people are dying. So the world is paying attention. And so, they weren't dying as fast, but they were dying. So this is big.
Yeah.
And so I had this sense that I was supposed to do something that would capture the community's attention. I never thought that. I thought Nehemiah was it. I thought the church was it, but I knew something was supposed to happen. So part of it is I had this deep sense I was going to be a part of something that's really major and significant. But I think as a leader, I feel part of my role as a visionary is not that I just see ideas and write them down, but I'm a catalytic leader, which means I can get the right type of catalytic and eclectic people together who should not be in the same room, but they're only in the same room because they're drawn by the vision.
Yeah.
And so there are some people who are developers, others who are construction companies, others who are fundraisers, others who are former politicians, others who expedite vision, others who are cultural integrity consultants, but they were all motivated by the vision of the center. So they were sitting there for the reason of the center, but with a different lens on. I shared the vision about how this is going to impact society. But it was someone in that team who said, this could be a national model. Like, this is wonderful. So then that crept into my language. And then others start saying, this could be a place where innovation would take place. So people started speaking into it. So they weren't just running with my vision. I just sort of framed out a vision. And I had to accept whatever it was, what they were saying. Like, people said, well, we could have a clinic here. Like, no, it's not going to be a clinic. We don't need to be a clinic. We almost had a gym in it, but we said, no, it's not a community center. It's got to be the center for culture, and cultural centers don't have gyms. So I could throw out stuff and accept stuff, but we built it and people start speaking into it together. So what happens is, if I infuse people with vision while I'm believing it, when I'm not believing it, they speak it back to me.
That's
so
amazing.
There are plenty of days where I just think,
that's great.
I don't know if I can do this. And then someone will just say something out of the blue, or they will put me in touch with someone who will say, well, yeah, we'll give $250,000. Or I'll sit down with someone who seems very unassuming, and they'll say, well, my wife and I have been thinking about this, praying about it, so we want to donate $500,000. And then this is all on Zoom. Like of the almost $24 million that we've raised, I think that maybe only 5 of those meetings were in person. The rest of them are like through my Mac, like sitting there with a tie on and sweatpants, selling this vision. We have about 13 more million to raise on our goal to get to 36. And some days I feel discouraged about that. But then I think, wait, but I've raised $23.5 million in like 10 months.
Which is unheard of. During the pandemic. During the pandemic.
But then someone out of the blue will say, you're going to get that money and more.
That's right.
Because you need money for programming. This is so important. So I think in a nutshell, Peter, inspiring people with vision so that it becomes a part of their own speak. And so without my having to say, I'm feeling down today, someone will just talk about the freshness of it, the uniqueness of it, the far-reaching impact of it. And as they're just talking about it, and they may not even reflect the community that's running it, but in just speaking back out of their own inspiration, it feeds my mind and my intellect. My mind is my intellect, but my mind and my heart.
That's amazing.
And it gives me strength to do it. So the people who you have inspired along the way will be the very people who will inspire you when you're having those very dark days full of doubts.
Man, that's so profound, because sometimes as leaders, we want to do everything independently. Like, we just want to do it ourselves. We just got to do it. We got to do it. But what I'm hearing you saying is this, that you kind of developed a team, a dream team, if you will, and you poured out your vision into them, and then they became owners of that vision with you. And it's this thing that when you have doubt, when you're in community with that vision, it really helps you. And it's just beautiful. And I think that's really a great lesson on leadership, that when you have doubts, when you have a vision, it's important to have the right people around where you share that with, where they can kind of be owners and curators of that vision, so that when you're struggling with doubt, that you're doing this together as a community, and something just beautiful happens and they speak into you, they help you, and you do it as a community. And that's beautiful, because honestly, I don't know anyone. I said this to you before. I don't know anyone on this planet that was able to raise $24 million in 10 months. I just don't know anyone on this planet that was able to do that. And it just shows, again, kind of like your leadership and what you were able to do. But also the reality is you did have doubts. And that just makes you human, but you were able to have the right people around you. And I think that makes it a real powerful statement.
Why support Black Like Me podcast? There are very few places where Black activists and innovators can listen to and hear someone so aptly and culturally appropriately voice their concerns and dreams and aspirations and fears and illnesses and cultural commonalities. Equally, There are so few places where concerned non-Black thinkers and feelers, readers and watchers, lovers of culture, stalwarts of racial justice and harmony can go to learn, lean in, and to be a quiet fly on the wall in Black spaces and experience deep personal transformation through listening to honest Black people's truth. Black Like Me podcast is that for so many people in this nation and around the world. Now, while your financial support beginning at as little as $2 a month will get you access to pre-released information, updates, conversations, insights, and exclusive events, your support also affords us the opportunity to expand the quality and reach of our excellent programming in thoughtful and authentic ways to more and more people. And more importantly, white people need to stop trying to get free shit from Black people. All right, seriously, your financial support is a vote of confidence, and it's an enabler of vision and innovation. So why not click that link today and join the movement? I want to thank you in advance for your support and your partnership. And Peter, I'll say for the folks, for our listeners, there were no 7-figure gifts in that.
Yeah.
So people have raised money, but
Yeah.
they probably have had a $5 million gift from an individual, a $15 million gift from an individual. We didn't have any of those. Our largest individual gift was $500,000.
It's amazing.
So to get to 23 in 10 months for any kind of effort is really key, but
On
more
Zoom.
specifically on Zoom. But another part of this, I was just thinking about this is clarity of vision helps so much with leadership. So when we first started talking about this, there was a lot of pushback from the non-Black community about, well, shouldn't it just be like a cultural center, not Black cultural? Some people were sort of standoffish because they said, well, what about the Hmong community? And I said, well, what are you saying? What about the Hmong community? Like, you're white and I'm Black. You're as close to being Hmong as I am.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, what makes me Hmong?
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with being Hmong, but
That's
I'm just
right.
saying I'm
That's
Black.
right.
I'm not Hmong.
That's right.
Germany is just as far from Laos and Southeast Asia as Guinea-Bissau, where my people are from. You closer, So anyway, it's just kind of funny how they just think, hey, y'all all just kind of glumped together, people of color. Some of those people fell away.
Mm-hmm.
So what you have to understand in vision is that you can't just be about popularity.
Yeah.
But there are others who came who said, wait, you actually have the balls to say Black, unapologetically
That's
Black,
right.
not even African American,
Right.
like Black, as Laleda would say, blickety Black. Like, I'm talking about Black architects. We're working with
right.
Black construction companies,
Yeah.
Black input, Black doctors,
Yeah.
Black nurses, Black librarians, Black, single moms, formerly incarcerated. That hasn't been done on such a broad scale. So what happened is it did push some people away who wanted to shape this into something that made them feel comfortable. But the reports show the disparity with Black people, not people of color, Black people. So if we can be named in the problems, why the hell can't we be named in the solutions?
That's right.
Why can't we shape it?
That's right.
And you're not going to guilt trip us, because when you say multi-ethnic to Black people, they think, oh, see, that ain't us. People think that everybody of color says, oh, that's us. We're all in this great big melting pot. Screw that.
Yeah.
No, when we hear that, Black people they scared to say Black, so they're going to put everybody in it.
Yeah.
And what it means is we got eased out, and somebody's afraid that we're getting too big of a slice of pie. So then it goes to multi-ethnic, people of color, POC, all this kind of stuff. Not that we can't be down with supporting other folks, but we're not going to be down with other folks in fixing Black problems. So the vision of being really focused on Black has also drawn people to. So I want to say to people who are listening, don't do bait and switch.
That's right.
Speak very honestly about what the vision is. And because folks knew what we were doing, what I think is amazing is when my non-Black team members who know that this is not designed for Black-white innovation, this is for Black innovation. Now, there are going to be plays and shows and book festivals and film festivals that's open to the whole community to learn about our culture and benefit from it. But at its core, it's about really curating Black excellence, Black-led solutions, where it's really designed to help the Black people. I think how did Chancellor Mnookin say this, UW-Madison Chancellor, and she said she doesn't own this, but she uses it, that we need space to be brave, and then we need space to be safe. But you can't be brave and crossing into new territories if you have not yet found places to be safe. This is created to be safe space for Black people so that we can be brave and branch out into the broader community. But to have white people helping to raise money among their white friends for a Black-led effort that creates Black space,
I just love it.
Is even more unique than just raising the money.
Absolutely.
If it were all in a Black context or all in a multicultural context.
Yes.
The fact that they understand we're helping to build something because this is important to our Black friends.
Yes.
Which means it is important to our entire community. That level of vision that people are understanding that, listen, that blows me away.
That's what I'm talking about.
That it's not guilt money. It's
That's
not
right.
knee jerk. We started fundraising during the pandemic, but the concept predated it. So for me, the fact that our community in Wisconsin, Dane County and broad Wisconsin is understanding this, the fact that the president of the Milwaukee Bucks is on our team, that the Packers gave us, the Packers Foundation gave us a $250,000 challenge grant that we leveraged to over $500,000, nearly $600,000, that people around the state are understanding how important it is to make sure that Black people feel safe, seen, and at home in Wisconsin. So for me, when I look at who supports and why they support, and that comes from a vision from a man who happens to be Black, who have had these experiences, it's probably one of the proudest things in my career because I've been very explicit, very unapologetic, and very honest in what I wanted to do.
And it's bringing like a sense of like healing and redemption and some level of racial justice, like just thinking and hearing this, because usually when white people raise a whole lot of money to do this kind of work, they want to kind of run the whole show.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So you're doing something so different. It's like this new wine. This is a whole different thing where you're saying, no. We want you to help us raise money, but the Black people are going to run the show. And that's powerful. That's powerful. And I love it. I absolutely love it. It's redeeming in so many ways. It really is.
And part of the redemption of it is that we get to say most of the solutions for Black people are designed by white people.
Yes.
Human services.
That's right.
Busing programs. These things that are designed, that's not necessarily what Black people want or how they would do things.
That's right.
And so for us to accept to be audacious enough to say, this is what we need now. And by the way, I'm supportive of the other Black and brown led initiatives. Before y'all ask me, are we in competition? Are we in competition? We're trying to help y'all.
That's right.
Really become a livable city for everyone.
That's right.
Hell no, we're not competitive against each other. We're cheering each other on. We're texting each other saying, I heard you just got some Mackenzie Scott money. I heard you just got some money from the Packers. We're congratulating each other because we understand what this means to the community. So I'm just really proud of leadership that inspires future leadership and collaborates with existing leadership.
And I have to just say this, and you have the data to prove what those solutions need to be. You do your research. It's not just, here's what we think. It's like, no, we actually have data to prove this is what we need to do.
Definitely.
And that's a beautiful thing. Okay, so when you look at the 35 years of your leadership over the years, and this is a very broad question, so I don't know if you can really answer it, but if you can get a redo, one redo of like, you know what, because every leader has fallen, we failed, and if you haven't failed in leadership, you haven't really tried hard enough. You're not really trying hard. You're not really leading well if you haven't failed. So if there was ever a moment where you could do a redo on something, it could be your pastoral leadership, it could be you running Nehemiah, whatever it might be, what would it be? What would it be?
Oh my goodness, Peter. I mean, I might just start spitting out a couple of them. Some of them I have course corrected.
Sure.
And so that's helped. For example, you've helped to introduce me to people who are Korean American in the business world, or people who are really networked in media, who are in the Asian American community, specifically Korean American community, who have helped to advise me or support our work. That has helped me because when the perception is you're not vying for the same money that everybody else is in a community, but you come with outside money and resources that gives you a bit of autonomy so you can say bold things, which I talked about in my interview with Harry. That helped us a lot. I would have started that earlier. I wouldn't have been so tied up with strings attached dollars that tried to pimp my creativity and my Blackness. I think that's so, but I tried to course correct. I think what I would have done, the redo, is that I would have owned the fact that I'm a social entrepreneur and that I have some real emotional some high qualities of emotional intelligence
Yeah.
and sensitivity. I would have probably framed my work in the church, Nehemiah, with a 5 to 7 year strategy of setting it up and then stepping away from the key leadership role
Yeah.
to either create a network of Nehemiah-like organizations or a network of associates. Like in our organization, we're considered a Black-led multi-ethnic church. Founder Life is probably like 60% Black.
Yeah.
When you met me, it probably was 85%
Sure.
Black. I think that what I would have done is stepped in and said, you all, I'm a visionary leader. Here's what I'm going to do for 7 years. But I'm going to step back and create curriculum. I'm going to train leaders, and we're going to create, a fountain of life in West Africa and South Africa. Or we're going to create a covering or an association for independent pastors who are like-minded. I think I would have moved in that role. That's part of what I see myself doing in my mid-60s. I turned 60 this year. My mid to late 60s, I want to create institutes, associations, learning circles, like the one that was created where you and I met. I would have done that earlier in my career.
Yeah.
Now, there's a part of me that says, but you need 35 years of experience to have the credibility of doing that. But I wanted so much to be a good administrator that I was ashamed of my visionariness, that I think I downplayed it. Like you said something a little bit earlier, Peter, about how I saw Harry's potential.
Yeah.
The flat side of that is I don't see details. So just because I saw that in Harry doesn't mean that he was ready for it that day.
Sure.
But I took the steps in getting him ready for that day, because someone else in the office, my wife, wanted to hire him because he just said, I just need to do something. He was going to be the receptionist. I was like, oh, hell no. He got more in him. This guy used to manage Jarrett's.
Yeah.
He can do more than answer phones.
Yeah.
And so I sort of started creating that process. So when you have a person in the leadership who doesn't see details, I don't think about grants, reports, of
course not.
updates. So there are places where I think I've caused the organizations to hiccup because I have not created an environment where I see those details, but a visionary doesn't.
That's right.
I would have put myself in a position, so I'm like, him, not her, them, yes, 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 and I would have appreciated that. I spent a couple of years of my life trying to fix the whole racial problem after I wrote Justified Anger because the white philanthropic organization said, well, what do you suggest? Which is a legitimate question. However, they have never pinned clean lakes on one white man or one white woman. They have never pegged any of the issues that we have in our community, whether it's too much salt in snow removal. They have not pinned that. Not even the mayor, not even the governor gets pinned with just one thing. So just because I penned a letter that went viral, I am now the Negro that's got to fix every damn thing.
Yeah.
So I got to lead black people like Malcolm X.
Yeah.
I've got to appease white people, and then I got to think like I'm Hmong.
Yeah.
I'm being facetious when I'm saying that.
Yeah.
And then I got to make sure that other groups don't feel like they're not a part of that discussion. Then I got to be able to communicate that to tenured faculty members and folks who don't have those kinds of things. That's a lot of pressure to get up every day. Looking back, I realized that for about 3 years I was having panic attacks. That every day I woke up to this sense of, and I'm not exaggerating.
Yeah.
It wasn't until TDS Telecom seconded Patrick Yates to work with us for 16 months to help put some legs to the whole structure of Justified Anger. It wasn't until he was on loan to us for 60% of his time for a year and a half, a little bit more than a year and a half, that I stopped having those panic attacks, that everything was on me. My redo is that I would not let white people, black people, anybody put the burden of fixing things on me with no resources, because I didn't start it. It wasn't mine to fix, but I own that because people said, you should do it. I would have led from my strength of being a visionary. I would have communicated more, because what happened was I penned a fairly excellent letter. It wasn't an interview. I got to put it in my own words. Very little editing. So those were like probably 85% of that were my actual words in Justified Anger. I would have sat in a position where I continued to offer those commentaries to the community, to society, to make people stop and look and reconsider the direction that we're moving. I think it might have taken the 35 years to understand it, because we did pivot. We did start creating things so that I could comment, white papers and gatherings and statements that I could make. It created an opportunity for me to go directly to the press and say, this is what I want to say, what I want to do. And they could choose to pick it up or not. But when they didn't, I created my own podcast. And or start working with independent black-led newspapers. But it's because I recognized my voice. So my redo as I sum that up, is I would have embraced the fact that I'm a communicator, that I'm a change agent, that I would have probably prepared. Not when I say an exit plan, I don't mean that I would have been gone, but I think I would have designed a role that was more obvious as to what I was doing inside that organization. And the other thing is I would have not have wasted 30 years apologizing for the fact that I'm the founder of Nehemiah, I'm the founder of Fountain of Life, I'm the founder of Black Like Me podcast, I'm the founder of the Center for Black Excellence and Culture.
That's right.
So let people who don't understand how I work define well, how do you do all of that? None of which is a problem when you're doing it all for free. Nobody gives a damn what you do.
That's right.
But as they start growing in popularity, everybody wants to begin to scrutinize you. I think that I can't help living in a fishbowl when you're a leader who happens to be Black. But I think while people were looking at me inside the fishbowl, I wouldn't have looked back at them.
Wow.
I would have been looking at them little food pellets that they give fish, or swimming in them little
them
little houses that you put down in fish bowls. I would have enjoyed the fishbowl rather than wondering, why the hell are you looking at me? Why what you looking at?
Yeah.
I would have just been swimming, backstroking, and enjoying it. So I think those are the things that I would do in my major redo, because I feel like I had lots of slippage.
Yeah.
I lost a lot of energy worrying about things that were not my issues to worry about, but I allow people to convince me to make it my issue.
Yeah, that's so good. You know, I still remember we were at California Pizza Kitchen. And
One of my favorite spots.
Yeah, get them a gift card to CPK.
That's
He'll
right.
love it.
That's
right.
CPK. Somebody who lives in
Come on
California,
now.
send this episode to
Kung
CPK.
Pao pasta, baby.
This
Kung
episode
Pao pasta.
Come on here. This episode is brought to you by CPK.
That's right.
California Pizza Kitchen.
They better be one of the sponsors. But I still remember you putting the finishing touches on the Justified Anger article. We
Oh
were
my
there,
gosh, yes.
And I was reading some of it, and I was just like, wow. But I just had no idea that when you sent it, it would blow up the way it blew up. And it just
I was with you
this-
when I sent it. In fact, I
you
was in
said-
December. I was
guys,
with you.
just give me 15, 20 minutes. I just got to relook at this. I just got to put my finishing touches.
Yes.
I got to send it to the editor. And who would have thought that letter just became this viral thing that just opened up and
10
gave you a
years ago.
platform. Yeah, to
10
do
years
what
ago.
you're doing now. It's really an amazing thing. And all the great different lessons you're learning, even the redos, but all those are just amazing stories.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Peter.
Really, really amazing stories. All right, this is my last question I have for you.
Okay.
And this is a very important question because you and I have talked about this quite a bit. We know that there are tensions between the Black and Asian community. It's been there for a long time in this country. And we've also dreamed about what it would look like when the Black and Asian community can come together and kind of join forces and potentially just battle racial injustice in this country. And I think it would be just beautiful. And so because of the years of your cross-cultural experience, you know, and all the connections, like you have your relationship with me and other Asian folks as well, I think we've talked about this, but what do you think are some steps that we can take where the Black and the Asian community can come together, kind of work on bringing some healing between our between our ethnic groups, and find ways in how we can build bridges to work together to, you know, destroy this nasty monster called racism in this country?
Right.
Yeah.
What such an important question, Peter. You know, you and I have talked about this extensively.
Yeah.
You know, in our own relationships. You know, Peter would never say this, but back home, he pulls together a coalition of mainly Korean American and African American pastors to talk about this very thing. So this isn't just some ethereal concept. It's actually where you put your time in. You know, you support work in South Africa, where Black women, South African women from KwaZulu-Natal are supporting each other and creating lending institutions or lending programs and things. So you're living this out about how we work and empower. So I just want to contextualize this that way. I think a couple of things, Peter. Another thing we talked about is that during the height of the civil rights, there were many Asian American influencers who stood with us. You know, there's this one picture I think I sent you where we found where it's a gentleman, Asian American, I think he was Japanese American, had this raised fist, and he said, "Yellow peril stands with Black power." And I looked at that picture. I love that picture. Saved on my computer because I asked myself, what happened?
Yeah.
We used to really work closely with the Jewish community and other communities, but let's just stick with Korean, with Asian American. I think a number of things need to happen. One, and I remember sharing this at a conference I spoke at. It was a religious conference down in Kansas. I'm talking about race relations. When I shared the history of how black people marched. Black grandmothers had urine thrown on them and dog feces and were whipped and water hosed because black people marched in order to make sure that women had rights, Asian Americans had rights, Latino individuals had rights, folks who were foreign to the U.S. We wanted them to have a good experience. One of my friends who's Taiwanese American said, because of civil rights, U.S. enacted new laws that allowed my family, his family, to keep money that they earned, bring family over, because the U.S. was actually limiting the number of people who could come from Asia because they wanted to keep a very small Asian population, and they wanted a lot of them to run Asian restaurants. I think, and so I mentioned this in this message. 2 Asian American men came up to me after, and in my message I said, and in general, the Asian American community has never said thank you to black people for paving that way. Instead, they allowed the white leaders and influencers to call them the model minorities and to help them to come up with the idea, to conjure up the idea that if you just worked hard like us, you wouldn't be in this situation. So creating a little bit of disdain between the groups. You're the model ones, they're the messy ones. They live in housing tenements, they stink, their mothers are raised in the community by themselves. And I just feel like this reality was wedged. It was the first time in my life that I can remember these 2 Asian American men came and said, I didn't know that. I'm sorry. And thank you for what black people did for Asian American people. It made me want to cry because I wasn't saying it so people would come up and say that to me. That's a long way of saying, I think black people and Asian American people have got to look at history. When you and I talk about the Korean-Japanese struggle and how that impacts you. I think we went to see 12 Years Slave together. It's one of those movies. And I just walked out feeling sick. And I said, Peter, what do you think when you see that? And you said, I think about the Japanese and the impact on my Korean family. I wasn't expecting that answer, but it showed me that you do understand oppression and ethnic clashes. And I think we have stories that we can share. Soul food and kimchi were born out of some of the same types of how do you hide food when you're under siege? How do you eat the worst parts of the meats? There's so much that we have in common, but our stories have not merged. We don't tell how we maintain culture and faith and valued education in that process. I don't think most Asian Americans who have developed a disdain for black people and black culture understand what we've done. And it goes way beyond K-pop. It goes way beyond the sexy parts of our culture that the whole world enjoys, but have never fully appreciated the black people who created that. And our people died. We did more than pop lock. We did more than just shook our black asses. We died so that to give birth to the women's movement, who benefited more from civil rights than black people did. And so I think what we got to do is just get some of the leaders to sit down and say, what's the history that we've ignored? What's our common stories? And how do we connect with each other? How do we support each other? How do we genuinely value each other? And I think people have got to watch leaders do this, speak out on things together, but do life together, build relationships with each other so that begins to trickle down. Our congregation has a different perspective of Asian American culture and individuals because of my friendship with you and John Teeter and Bill and Dave and these other friends. And you have black people on your staff, but I would think that they think differently. Some of your folks think differently because we've had meals together. They've gotten to know me and my families, and so me and my family. I don't have one family. Me and my family and black families. I think it starts at a very personal level. But I think the other part of it is most aren't familiar with the history. And so what black people were feeling, and you and I have talked about this a little bit, when stuff was happening, horrible atrocities were happening to Asian American communities, it wasn't that we didn't feel it. The first response was, okay, they thought this was gone. And if we had befriended each other, we would have said, that shit ain't gone. They still think it. We hear what they say when you're not around. And so I felt like this because people really couldn't believe that it was going on. But because we had not built bridges to each other, I cared about it. My family did because we know you and we know others. But for folks whose perspective of Asian Americans is that they don't give a damn about the black community, black people weren't sitting in front of the TV thinking, oh my God, what just happened? I'm just keeping it. I'm
Yeah,
just
keep it
keeping it 100%.
Yep.
People weren't. They were like, we tried to tell people that this was the reality, but people call us, we're whiners and we're this and we're that. You mean you can be Asian and a doctor and it don't matter to people just as long as you're Asian? You be Asian and rich and they don't care? Black people have been saying it doesn't matter where we go to school, what we do.
That's right.
So I think part of what we have to do in building a strong coalition with each other, let's look back at history. Let's teach that history.
Yeah.
Let's show that level of appreciation. Because you tell Black people thanks one time that they know people get it, it changes the whole relationship. Like, okay, folks appreciate. It's like coming in my home and trying some food that's Black cuisine. It's like, wow, this is good. Can I get some more? Like once people show this sensitivity towards your culture, you feel like it's family. Like when you came to my house and ate some collard greens, it wasn't your first time you ate it, but first time you ate it in my home. Or when I come to you, I want to go and experience, Korean cuisine. I want to try some new stuff. It's that way when people know your history. And say, you know what? Black people have opened the door.
That's right.
And have contributed to Asian success. And so we need to think differently when we hear things. That would change things for Black people because we're used to taking care of folks who shit on us. It's what we do. We raise the babies of people who beat us, raped us, and sold us. Because if we allowed hate to enter our hearts, it would have killed us more than slavery.
Wow.
So we're used to turning around and doing that at the risk of our own self-esteem.
Yeah.
It wouldn't take much for Black people to say, oh, hell no, when we see some atrocities happening. Now, people are going to listen to this and think, well, you're Black, you understand oppression, you should just do it. You ask, how do we move ahead? You didn't ask me what makes white people understand us better. We have a history that should have run parallel with each other, but there are other people meddling to keep us from collaborating. And this is how we do it, by understanding history, realizing that we're better and stronger and smarter together. And let's build from that strength. Let's share resources and let's shake this stuff up.
Yeah. And what I'm hearing from you, and I couldn't agree with you more. And I think there's a part of this, and if anyone's listening and I can only speak for my group, the Asian community, is that we have to realize that that there is a necessary thing that we have to do, and realize that Black people have paved the way for us to be in this country and be successful. And that's that part of that gratefulness, thankfulness, and it's just something that we have to do. I think it's something that we have to do, and I think amongst the Asian American community, it's something that they don't fully believe in yet. And that's why I think when those two brothers came up to you afterwards, it's like the first time they ever heard this.
They said, I've never heard this before.
But it's like, but just study the history. Like, without civil rights, you wouldn't even be allowed to be here. Nothing would have been, like, there's been nothing. And I think part of that is that we have to take ownership of the fact that when we came into this country, that, our parents and we were just, we were led to believe as long as we study and work really hard, our goal is to be white. And that's it. And we didn't even think about that we wouldn't even be able to be here if it wasn't for the Black people. And I think that there has to be a shift amongst my folks, my Asian American community, of just really understanding and thanking the Black community. I think, like you said, that would really be a real good first step in making this happen. And also getting opportunities to really ask honest questions and just being able to have a safe community where we can do that, I think would be so helpful. But yeah, it's just so important coming together and the stories that we can share together. And learning the history would be really great, because when our staff, about 12 of us took the Black History course.
Right.
I mean, I just remember after a couple sessions, like, our staff were just crying because they didn't know.
They didn't know. And it's this deep understanding and just learning the history of what Black people had to go through in this country, and the opportunities that they were able to pave for the Asian American community. And it just opened up in such a huge way, and I'm just so grateful for it. And I just really, my hope is that would be something that can happen. And hopefully, you can help us be a catalyst to that, and bringing the Asian and Black community together in some ways, and figuring out how we can come together and work together and serve together to kind of defeat this ugly monster called racism. Yes.
Yeah.
Because, Peter, when you get a group that's been in America as long as Black people have been, my family's been here for like 400 years. You came to America when you were about 6-9 months old.
Yep.
So your parents came
70s.
here in the 70s. Your parents came here not speaking any English because you were sick. They were looking for medical care. And so you had nothing to do with racism and systemic racism. But when people watch the Korean American community excel and create small businesses and move ahead, that it was happening during a time where black people could walk into banks and not be given resources. Like redlining was still going on. And you all were told we were dirty. You all were told, not every Asian person, but they're being told, you're smart, you're doing this. So to have been working the land and then just watch two people come in and just pass you by and not understand what greased the skids, you all didn't know it. And so that's why people watched the video and had no idea. But that was where the white community intervened, even calling you all yellow. Like people in Asia don't walk around saying that. It was to show that white is the ideal. Black is just hopeless and it's dark and it's dirty. But you know what? You're yellow, which is almost white. It is nowhere near. No one confuses yellow with black. But if you don't have good color differentiation, pale yellow can sometimes look like white. So even referring to you all as yellow, but others as brown and red and black, even on the color scheme, that's closer to white. So we have to even just think about like who created yellow and why. And it's because when Asians stopped wanting to collaborate with European influence and white influence of how they moved and acted in their country, or the work that America did in setting up the North and South Korea, like those kinds of interventions, it set up some resistance among Asian Americans. And so the more y'all spoke out, the more you got pushback from America too. But we spoke and we spoke English. So we could speak out in a way that many people could understand. And so we were very vocal with that. And we stood up by being black. And so we could constantly be so mistreated that if I were Asian American coming to America and I saw how black people were being treated, I would not want to be in that category either. So then it just gave all the motivation to not be. But as we understand that and just work together, I think, Peter, you and I and others can help to be a catalyst. But we can't just talk when the crap hits the fan. We got to build relationships. We got to train others and teach people to be family and support each other.
Like you said, that whole yellow thing, how it's so close to being white. I mean, in Korea, you'll just, if you go there, like everyone wants to have the palest skin. They don't want to get tans. They put umbrellas. They wear these big obnoxious hats so that the sun doesn't invade their skin, because they want to be as white as possible, because white is the goal that we want to get to. When our kids are born, we're looking and hoping, and you guys think this is crazy, but do they have the Western eyes? Do they have that big flap under their eyes? Every Korean parent is hoping that their kid has that. And if they don't, we'll get surgery to make sure that they have it, because we don't want them to have the Asian features. So there's already this sense of shame. And this ideal is we need to look more white and Western. And we don't even realize we're doing it. That's the thing that sometimes makes me really sad. Koreans don't even know that they're doing it. And their goal is to be more white. And so we come in this country, and it's just natural, like you say, we see what's happening, and we naturally say we're going to continue to do our best to be as white as we can. Study hard, work hard, get the education. And like you said, it's like it don't matter. In this country, it doesn't matter because, people are still going to judge you by the color of your skin and the way you look. So anyway, So thank you for that. That was really, really special. Yeah.
Listen, you all, I told you that you were in store for this great episode. Listen, people that need to listen to this, and that's not code for Black Like Me podcast listeners. Go find all your Asian American friends and send this to them. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, but just share this broadly. In this season, I want you to do more than just listen and click a link and become a patron, although I want you to do that. I want you to really share this information so that people can begin to think and act differently. We want to motivate people and not just entertain people, but we want people to think like global citizens. And I believe that this episode has really, really helped. And so I enjoyed this space. My special guest has been Peter An, soon to be Dr. Peter An, Dr. Chung Koon.
Yeah, that's what you
Peter
told me
An.
to change my name back to Chung Koon.
Yes, I'm telling you, when that certificate come out, if you think I went off because you didn't like that orange shirt, let me come to a graduation party and it says Peter on. I'm gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna start tearing crap up. You watch and see. I'm gonna have a black fit. I'm gonna have a Negro fit right up in your house. That certificate better say your Korean name. I wanted to say what your mama and daddy called you.
That's right.
And so I want you all just to share this information because it does give us hope that we can work together. And I'm hoping that my Black Like Me podcast listeners become those sparks and that ray or beams of light of encouragement in the world. But it becomes from not just thinking you've arrived, but making sure that you're traveling so that you can arrive someplace that's very meaningful. So please lean in, learn, listen, be transformed, share this information, write a review about the podcast. If you haven't done that, do it. Don't just listen and then not help me get the word out. Share a link on your social media. And if you have not yet done it, click the link to become a patron. If you're already a patron, click that link again because you can upgrade. Because we want to get this message out to as many people as possible because this space that we're creating is not as popular and widespread as one might think, not on the podcast airwaves. So appreciate you all being a part of the change that we want to be. And I certainly appreciate you for being a part of Black Like Me. And to my patrons, and supporters of Patreon, thank you so much for believing in this and helping us to create this exquisite product that can really help people think, learn, and live differently together. Have a great day.
Black Like Me. Black Like Me.
Wow, I really enjoyed today's conversation, and I know that you did too. You know, with each episode, I challenge my listeners to do a number of things: to lean in, to learn, to reflect, to share, to donate, but more importantly, to act on what has inspired you in today's episode. You know, the benefit of being around for 8 seasons is that people constantly stop me and tell me how much they love the show and they even give me ideas and suggestions about Black icebreakers. But you know, I couldn't have pulled this off alone. So let me take a moment so that I can acknowledge and thank my crew. Engineers and producers, Jeremy and Eli. Also a member of my creative team is Jakisha. The music was produced by Corey Saffold, and Marcus Fleming is on vocals. And of course, you, our Patreon supporters, and all of our listeners, thank you. To everyone who listens to this podcast and you decide to share it with someone who needs it, to everyone who listens and then reposts it on your own social media accounts, to everyone who hears something that moves them to act differently, act better, and to everyone who leans in to understand Black life more honestly, thank you.
Black Like Me.